Bubba, we have a guest that's been with us before, and really now more than ever, this is a time we start thinking about survival.
The preacher man says
It's the end of time, and the Mississippi River, she's a rolling dry.
the interest is up
And the stock market's down, and you're gonna get mugged if you go downtown, especially in gun-free zones. I live back in the wood, you see, a woman and the kids and the dog and me.
Where's Robbie?
I know, where's old Caldwell?
I got a shotgun, a rifle, and a four-wheel drive,
And a country boy can survive. Everybody say, country folks can survive. Stacy Harris joins us again.
I can plow a field all day long. I can catch catfish from dusk till
And
dawn.
Stacy has written the books Tracking the Outdoors, also the ebook Wild Game and how to prepare that, and coming soon this December, Sustainable Living. And you Stacy, came on the show, I guess.
Subtitle, After Armageddon.
After how long ago was that?
It was about a year.
Well, and,
we got a lot of great feedback when you were here. It was a great book you guys put together.
Yeah, if you want to get a copy of the book, Happy Healthy Family, Tracking the Outdoors In, she'll be signing copies of that today.
Tomorrow.
Or tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Look, it's fine. It's tomorrow. To a couple of places tomorrow. Hoover, Alabama, 104.7 WZZK. She'll be at Costco in Hoover, 11:30 to 1:30. Montgomery, Alabama, I-92, Costco, Montgomery, Alabama, 3:30 to 5:30. You can go get a copy of the book. We have a copy at the house. My wife.
It's very well done. Very well done.
Looking it over. And here's the bottom line. You know, now more than ever, people are saying, hey, as we go forward in this economy and this country begins to kind of, we need to start finding a way, to make the most of what we have, but also learn to be able to kind of go back to an agricultural time that has passed
and be self-sufficient.
Be a little more self-sufficient, to be able to grow my own food, to be able to hunt my own food, and then once I hunt it,
to know what to do with it.
how you prepare it, how do you make it, what are some dishes you can do with it.
Right.
Now, first of all, tell them what you're serving us today.
Well, we made some meatball sandwiches out of venison, and they are really, really scrumptious.
Yes, they are.
And they're really easy to make, and everything I do is pretty easy because I do have 7 kids, and I can't be in the kitchen all day. So it's really, really easy, but people just think that preparing wild game is hard to do. I also made Korean wraps, and with the slaw on the bottom and the sauce on the top.
What was it? Was that the taco? What was the taco?
It's the
Taco got a little slaw in there, got some venison in there, all lean and delicious.
And it's so
Not
good for you.
overcooked to dry it out, just perfect.
Yeah, thank you. It is so easy. I mean, it took like 15 minutes, And then I made some venison chili. And chili, everybody's got their favorite kind, but this is like so scrumptious.
Greg,
and
you
the
love
meat
that,
just melts in your mouth.
I haven't done the chili yet, but I'm going back.
Yeah.
I'm going back.
Can I tell you what I would like to do if
I'm
it's
going
okay
in,
with
guys.
you?
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
in, Bubba.
Yeah.
And it's my own dish. I wouldn't mind taking that tortilla, putting the venison in it, and putting some chili in there.
Oh,
with it.
yeah. That would be great. That would be great.
I'm all over
Yeah, you're
that.
going to have to do that and tell me what you think about that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
might
all
have to
over
make
that. Now let's talk. We mentioned wild game, and you can just hear the audience. Go,
You know what
"Oh,
else,
boy."
Rick, I'd like to?
What?
Doss. Deer on a shingle.
People hear wild game, and they go, and a lot of people. And we talked about this on the show a lot, but now that you're here, especially from a female perspective, because you hear hunters on there talking, and there's the woman out there going, "This doesn't apply to me," unless you're a woman who hunts. But you are a mother of 7. You're a wife, and you cook a lot of wild game.
Yeah, they usually get like 12, venison a year, and then duck and quail and.
So you've got meat.
I bet you got some freezers.
You've
Duff.
got meat stacked
man.
up. You got meat stacked up.
Yeah, and it's a tragedy when it gets left open. Let me tell you.
Number one issue.
Or if the
Yeah.
power goes off.
Oh
I bet
yeah, it's bad. It's bad news.
Number one issue.
Go in the creek.
Number one issue with wild game, especially deer, the gamey taste.
Can I talk about that?
Yeah,
for a minute?
because like I know different processes, but frankly, some of the processes sound to the listener, well, that's a long time. I got to put it on ice for 4 days and keep changing the ice and draining out the blood? And how do you go about it? What for somebody who just says, look?
And what makes it gamey tasting to begin with?
All right, there's
other than its game.
Two things that make it gamey tasting. The first one is the preparation when you're about to cook it, that's the second one. But the first one is that when it's the processing. It really is, and it needs to age for 7 days. Is the people don't age it, and so it doesn't break down, and so it's really, really tough. And there's no getting it back if you don't age it right. So you can take it to a processor, a really good one. Some of them are not so great. Some of them are fantastic. You can take it to a processor. You can do it yourself. My kids, they can get it all done within 30 minutes. But there is a process. We have a lot of them, and so they're wrapping and taping, and one's cutting it up into pieces. And I kind of like to leave them whole into the hind quarter and all that. And then if I want to make it into deer sausage or anything like that, I can grind it up myself later. But it needs to sit in the refrigerator. That's what we do for about 7 days after
just
it's
the refrigerator.
The refrigerator, and we put it on a rack in the refrigerator and let it drain its blood onto a cook. It's like a pan, but you put a cooling rack on top of that, and it doesn't sit in the blood, and so you can do that. The best way is to have a hang-in cooler, and you can hang it in the cooler, but we don't have that.
Really, what you're doing is what God told us when Noah got off the ark: drain the blood out of it first.
That's right.
That's really what the aging process is all about, right? And letting it break down.
Yeah, and I will add to that: if you don't have it set up like that, it's what I've talked about, and I just mentioned it, but it does work. Is if you got an ice cooler, so you don't have that.
Right.
Take the meat, put it on ice.
Right. And then it goes down.
And every day go in there and dump it out, because you'll have the blood that's been drained out. Put it back on there again. Do that for about 3-4 days, and that also gets it about ready to go. Because you got to drain that blood out of it, or it has that metal gamey taste, which is the blood.
And it won't have that taste if you do that right, and then if you cook it correctly, and then it won't be tough because it had time to break down. And then when you cook it, you can further break down each different type of piece. You can either braise it, or you can pound it out in the to get the cartilage softer, or you can there's just a million different ways you can prepare it, and it tastes better than the meat you get at the grocery store, and it's so much healthier for you.
I'll tell you that today. It's just, it just comes alive with flavor. That is amazing.
I don't want to get overly graphic, but also I would assume when you dress the deer out, you've taken the deer, it's on the ground. There's so many different ways people. I use the word gut a deer, but clean it, whatever. There's so many different ways to do it. That's also important too, right? That I know you guys have a YouTube video that is your way to do it,
right?
And based on what I'm eating, that must be a pretty good way.
It is, and as long as you keep the meat clean from the guts, then you're doing good. And they always get it done within probably an hour after the kill, so so it's not sitting there for very long. But those are the two things that make deer meat gamey, and it's really wonderful and easy to prepare. After I have a lot of videos where it takes just 15 minutes from the beginning to the end of the process of cooking a great meal with venison. So once you get the hang of it and understand it, and you can't cook it like beef because it doesn't have the marbling that beef has. And you have to cook it a particular way. We'll talk about that when we come back. And I know you cover that in the book, but you might be able to give some people some
tips. Do you do clinics or anything? Like where you come and people?
Go ahead.
Stacy Harris. All kinds of YouTube videos where she gives you some instruction. The books are available that give you instruction. Because I really believe a lot of people would prepare it more if they weren't afraid of, I don't know what to do with it. And she really can help you with that. And you will thank her for that. It really is delicious and a very healthy meat. We'll be back.
Rick and Bubba.
We're now more than ever watching every penny. And really, as a society, as we move forward, it's a good idea. We're doing it at our house. And look, it's begrudgingly. Because nothing wrong with enjoying the modern technology. And like you said, you guys don't eat wild game 24/7. But if it came down to it and you needed to, you could.
And fish.
Yeah, and fish and all that. And we need to get to, as Americans, that we can, not be so helpless if suddenly the grocery stores had shortages or, God forbid, something worse. And how about this?
What if the grocery stores and the fast food lines were not there? Power went off.
Right.
What do we do?
Right, and God forbid, but you know what? One thing to think about, and I know this is kind of where you're coming from, even in the time we're living in now. Mm-hmm. What about the fact you just want to be able to save money? It's just a lot less expensive
and healthier.
Yeah, the way
the
you're
original
doing it.
free range meat, right?
Just like Stacy was saying in the break. Number one, I know we got Whole Foods and we got your fresh markets and these people that claim that everything is organic and everything's the way it's supposed to be.
Farmers markets are great.
Farmers markets and things like that. But here's the thing: you still got to trust people.
Yes.
When it comes to I grew it in my own yard.
Oh, yeah.
I went out and took the game myself. I've prepared it. I've processed it. And I know there's some good processors. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you really want to make sure it's exactly what it's supposed to be,
right,
you do it yourself.
You do. And we have heirloom. I talk a lot in this new book that's coming out in June, but I talk a lot about heirloom gardening. And with those seeds, you can save those seeds back and replant every year, over and over the same seeds. And to me, I really like it because it's historic. We have a historic house and, I just like history. And we have seeds dating back, from some 1700s and 1800s, they're the same DNA, the same, the whole 9 yards, and it's the same thing they grew out their back door. And I can grow it in a pot, I can do it vertically if I don't have a lot of room. I can, grow, I have an Italian herb pot on my back porch. And so I've got all kinds of, just Italian herbs with a tomato plant, growing up in the middle of that and basil and, and all of that. And you can do even the smallest things will get you going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, how much, like if you were preparing a meal today how much of that meal do you need to go outside of your own home and your own family to get?
Really, we wouldn't have to do any of it.
None of it.
If we didn't have to. Now, bread, it might be hard to get, wheat, but we have, some wheat berries and stuff like that. But, but really we wouldn't have to do much of anything. We could go out in the garden and get what we needed or, and I think community is important. And so eventually with the farmers markets, all the farmers, the local farmers around, people could go and get some things to fill in,
right.
What
do you have your own chickens?
We do. We do have our own chickens, and so I have a whole segment.
That was kind of a dumb question.
So, no, it really wasn't because we're growing. It's
well, they're vegetable legs, right?
Right,
You expect
sure.
that.
Yeah,
yeah. So your meats are obviously anything that's beef based. You're using venison,
right? Mm-hmm.
Then if you want to get into various fowl, you have
Right.
your own chickens, but you also have
Mm-hmm.
that you hunt quail. Which now the only problem in our state is getting harder and harder to find quail that are free
It is.
range. That's very difficult.
Do you know I have several coveys of?
Yeah.
We
We
saw them again
some
yesterday.
We saw some yesterday too.
Yeah, but they're
We've hammered those predators that get after them pretty hard.
That's
so
the
that
key.
helps too.
That's the key.
If you
Yes.
keep old Bob out of
Yeah.
the nest, it
Right.
helps a whole lot,
And,
That's
then when
right,
it
that's
comes to
right.
your vegetables, you're growing those.
Right,
And,
right.
and I know some people are hearing in their mind, you're going to have a lot of acreage. And you're saying, no, not really.
no,
You can be wise with even small plots.
And you can grow cucumbers vertically. You can grow a lot of stuff vertically. You just put a little wire mesh up, and they just go right up it. And train your vine to go up. You can do peas that way. There's just a ton of stuff.
Do you do corn? Not
we-
vertically, but do you do corn?
We did do some corn last year.
Boy, it's good right off the old.
And corn,
Right.
I mean, everything on the planet eats corn, and you can do so much with it.
Corn.
I mean, you can eat it on the cob. If you're creative, you can eat it almost raw sometimes, or you process it all the way out and use it as gasoline. I mean, it
Right.
does
Great
everything.
stuff.
Well, here
Yeah.
today, with everything that you have, we have, these, I'm calling them tacos, you're calling them
Right.
something else, but it's got venison, it's
Right.
got slaw, it's
Man,
got
that
all that.
stuff is
It's got
unbelievable.
all that. We got chili.
I don't even like slaw, and it's
we
good.
got we got meatballs. We've got all this stuff. So I think a lot of people when they start thinking about totally free range is variety, but there's an incredible. Just think to
No.
yourself. Just take all the things you make beef with,
Right.
and picture that being deer,
Right.
or anything you do chicken. Picture being chicken, but also some other. I want to tell you that one of the most delicious birds you'll ever eat is a quail.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
so
you
good.
talk about delicious.
But if you've never had a free range chicken, prepared correctly, you have not eaten. I mean, the collagen melts down if you braise that, and it is the best stock you will ever find.
Now, when you say
anywhere.
free
It's so good.
range, do you mean like Papa and Granny used to have in their yard?
Yeah,
Correct.
they just walk around. We
Yeah.
do have them.
Do you wring their
caged,
neck?
But
Who takes care
The
of that?
chopping block, or do you ring?
Scott, most of the time, he'll do it.
That's your husband?
We thought it'd make a great YouTube if I did one, but I hadn't gotten up the nerve yet.
Well,
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
the first time I saw my Uncle Clovis wring a chicken's neck and that thing go running around the yard, I thought, my gosh,
You won't
what
forget
in
it.
the world?
Well, what about-
it was
What
like
about
a
fun
horror
day with the
movie.
family day?
What about when you look?
What a great family event.
Family day.
Him it
Yeah,
up.
that'd
It don't have a head.
Why is it running around? It's a hazardous chicken. But the other thing, like a lot of people, because I know there's a lot of women out there that are thinking, well, Stacy, I don't know that, but really, you just told us, which I couldn't imagine, that you've never even killed a deer. It's your children and your husband that do all that.
Yeah, because I have to keep the babies right now. But I am going to I hope to kill my first deer Wednesday for a Destination Whitetail TV show that comes on next.
So, but I was surprised that you've been working on your shooting so you can be ready.
Right.
Because
I love to shoot.
Because they bring the game to you and you prepare it and you take care of the babies, but you've never gone out and killed one yourself. But you're about to.
I'm about to.
That's pretty expensive. That's
Well, that takes a
expensive
little pressure
practice nowadays, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That takes a little pressure off Scott back there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, but and you have 7 children. What's the ages of the children now?
They're 3 up to 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know there's questions out there, and this would be a good opportunity. Yes, the books are available. You can also see Stacy in Hoover tomorrow, 11:30 to 1:30 at Costco, and then Montgomery on Saturday, 3:30 to 5:30 at Costco. You can get her to autograph these books for you. You can meet her in person. She got all kinds of YouTube videos that might help you. And I just think overall, regardless of where we may be heading, I just think it's wise, even if it's just from a
Health, economic, convenience.
and of course for you doomsdayers, this is right up your alley.
If you're a prepper, baby, you can't miss this.
I mean, this is right up your alley.
We have a video and like a couple of articles, and I'm so thankful because I do have a lot of children. I have some of my sons are writing some of my articles on my website, but we did a earthen oven that you can cook in. So if you ran out of electricity, you're going to make the best stuff because it keeps heat all day long, and we we made it out of clay.
Now, how
And
do you
so-
do
and
that? I
fired
got to
it.
see that.
You people.
You get
You amazing
go to my
Harrises.
YouTube, but it was so much fun. Scott's the idea man. Every time he comes, next is a smokehouse. So we're wanting to do a smokehouse next. So I just go along with his ideas, and it ends up working out great.
All right, we're going to take your phone calls. Questions
Scott's got to tell me about the oven and the break.
questions for Stacy or any of the various members of the Harris family. We got the older ones here today, too. So your phone calls are next. We'll let you ask some questions because if we haven't covered something, you may have a specific question you want to ask Stacy. If maybe you're the wife and the mom that does the meals, maybe you're, whatever the case may be, and you got some questions about it, she can answer some of those. Her YouTube videos are also all over YouTube. They may be helpful as well. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. 35 minutes past the hour. If you're just joining us, let me put it in a nutshell for you. We have Stacy Harris here. She's authored a book, Happy, Healthy Family, Tracking the Outdoors In. It's all about preparing wild game, growing your own food, trying to be as self-sufficient as a family as you possibly can. She also has an ebook that's also called Wild Game, Food for Your Family. And coming this summer, Sustainable Living, and with recipes and tips there. She's got YouTube videos. She's got some book signings coming up tomorrow, Hoover, Alabama, Costco, 11:30 to 1. Montgomery, Costco, 3:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. Her husband, Scott, and some of their children are here. They have 7 children from 3 to 19, and they all work as one rockin' Harris machine.
It's a well-greased machine, too.
And they're trying to give us some tips. They've done all the work. All we got to do now is look at the research they've done. A lot of questions, so we'll get right to those. Kelly, Madison, Alabama. Kelly, you are on with Stacy and Scott and various Harris children. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, I just wanted to ask Rick and Bubba and Sherry if they've ever heard of a GMO.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the break. It's funny you said that, Kelly. And Hunter, one of the children, is a biology major, and this is kind of your area that you've been studying that. First of all, Stacy, tell us what a BMO, what do you mean?
GMO.
GMO, I'm sorry. I know what a BMO is. A GMO.
There you go. It's a
These foods will also help that as well.
They're perfect. Genetically modified organism, that's what it stands for. And it's just an organism that they put that doesn't belong in a particular thing to make it disease resistant. Like they put a lot of these like in corn products and soy products. And it's and so so much of what's on the shelves in the supermarkets have corn in them. I mean, I'm like 75% of the stuff that's on the shelves, but they'll put it in there to make it disease resistant. That's the main thing that they do. But it could be something like a jellyfish, something that has nothing to do with corn. It doesn't even reproduce itself. So if you plant it back in the ground, it may come up, may not. Most of the time, it doesn't. Do you want to explain?
Hunter, tell us about GMOs. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's basically what it's exactly what my mother said. It's where you just genetically modified organism. You put basically just jellyfish or.
So I'm looking for a big
You
piece
remember
of corn.
when they made what was it? A cat that glowed or a fish that glowed by
that's
putting a
exactly what it
jellyfish
is.
in it?
And it so it glows in night or right in the dark.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're talking about we really do what they tried to,
Frankenstein.
what the villain was doing in the movie Underdog?
Exactly.
You're talking about where you take different kinds of animals and plants and you genetically alter them by combining their genetics, maybe try to get a gigantic tomato, a much bigger ear of corn.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're getting. I mean, it works, but they haven't done it long enough to have the side effects yet.
Dealers don't have a long-term study on it and how they could start bumping into each other in our self because we are the top of the food chain.
They have done more studies though than I think that they're letting on, because I know in Europe they make them label the food products that have it in it, and a lot of those people boycott the GMOs. So I think there's a lot of studies that we don't know about.
But the plan you guys are operating, you can avoid that type of stuff. You know what you're eating. You know where it came
Yeah,
from.
if you buy anything heirloom's not going to have any of that stuff in it, and then you have to look for hybrids. You have to watch out for hybrids, especially corn and soy products, cotton, and most of that stuff's going to have genetically modified crosses somewhere in there. But
Right, and we don't know what some of the side effects would be. We know that some of the testing on rats, you get a gigantic rat, but the rat kind of has some issues long term.
Yes.
Right.
And then the cross-pollination problem. Tell them about that.
Yeah, most of that corn that's genetically modified is not going to reproduce on its own, or it's going to be kind of like the parent. I mean, any kind of cross is going to go back to its parent parent plants, and it's not going to be near as good. But it will cross if you have hybrids growing within a mile from the genetically modified corn. It will cross with that, and it will produce something that's not. I mean, it's going to have all that in it.
To the phones we go. 866 We Be Big to John, Pell City, Alabama. John, go right ahead, buddy.
Yes, thanks for taking my call.
It's our pleasure.
I was just curious, are you familiar with aquaponics and greenhouse systems? And what is your thought process on like growing tilapia in a greenhouse with fruits and vegetables?
What do you think about that?
It's a good idea. You know, aquaponics is, without the soil there, a lot of stuff is going to the greenhouses now. You can grow it year round.
Like a little biodome. Huh?
Exactly. You have a lot more control over the environment that way. I know in our pond, we do, in the summertime, we'll stock it with tilapia. They'll die about September, October.
I just went through that.
And then we'll stock it with rainbow trout in the winter. And
Isn't that fun? I love catching the rainbow
they are
trout.
so fun.
Hey, let me ask you this. I can't get. What do you get? Do you ever get the tilapia to bite anything? I can't get them to bite anything.
It seems like some days you better catch them quick.
I'm mainly feeding bass with them, and then they all die in the winter.
Right. The best time we have success is when they're starting to get real slow in the fall and go out there and catch them with a net.
Yeah, because you really can't get them to hit a lure, really, or a
No,
bait.
it's tough. And we like to fly fish. We tie looks like the feed we feed them, whatever. And it's just
That's really all that works.
that's all that
Yeah,
works.
because I just went through that the winter die off.
Yeah, and then they unfortunately, if you don't get all that, they'll really stink up a
Yeah,
pond.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
866 We Be Big. Let's go to David in Florence. David, welcome to the Rick and Bubba Show. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Doing
Buddy.
great.
Hey, this question for the lady.
Hey.
Yes, I had some venison ground, had bacon added in with it,
Right?
which I usually process my own, but I took this to a processor, and our first cooking we did was make chili out of it, and it was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the second time we tried it was going to do spaghetti, and I don't know, the taste was almost like the processing plant smell. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. But was it from the same batch?
I'm sorry?
Was it from the same batch of ground?
Same batch, sure was.
I don't know why it would have done that. Sometimes spaghetti, when you start mixing, when you put the acid in there with it, it can make it grainy if it's got too much bacon. Maybe that, I don't know if that may have had something to do with it or not.
You think you should dial his bacon back a little bit on how much is mixed in there with it?
I think it was like, I think he said like it was 20/80, something like that.
Okay. You know, one of my favorite things to do, and I don't guess this is really answering your question, but one of the things that I like to do is when I process my meat, I like to put what's prosciutto in it. And
I'm sorry, but what in it?
It's called prosciutto, and it's smoked, and it's ham. So you've got the flavor of it, and that way you don't have to get your venison all the way done, because it's like beef then. And you know, and since the pork is already done in it, you don't have to cook it all the way through, and you can have it a little bit more juicy. It doesn't dry out, and it's got the flavor. Another thing I like to do is put olive oil in it, like the meatballs that we had. I put a half a cup of olive oil in that to give the added fat. But I didn't want it to be pork because I wanted to make sure that if it wasn't all the way done, I'd be okay. I don't know about the taste though in your spaghetti if it worked with the
If it was all from the
chili.
same batch, that seems.
It does seem odd, but you know. Well, I better not say that. You know, depending on the processor, if it's a great processor, you'll be fine because it'll be your deer. But, you know, I often wonder at processors if you're getting your deer, if it was processed at a different time or
The last guy's deer.
Well, you have to be careful. Usually when it reveals itself, if you take a relatively young doe, which is usually the best to eat, and also when you go to pick it up, it's tough, like it was a big mature buck. You're like,
Stacy, I want to ask a dumb
that
question
shouldn't have been.
that I'm getting an email. When you talk about aging the meat, at what point does that happen? And is the processor do that? Or what exactly are you talking about is compared to the way beef's done?
A good processor will he'll know what to do, and he'll have a hanging room where he hangs it in a.
So they age it.
They age it for you, so you won't have to worry about that. And it's done the whole time that it's sitting there. You know, it just slowly breaks down before it goes bad. You know, but it just slowly breaks down, and then there's just that stop off time, which to us is about 7 days.
Yeah, really, what you're saying.
And what temperature is that done at?
It's 42, 40.
about
It's above
42,
freezing, but cold.
42.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, if you have a good processor, and you'll know by the way the meat tastes, you're really okay.
You will,
But if you don't have a good processor, then you have to get into these things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where you're aging it and pulling the blood out yourself. The good news is you're doing it right. The bad news is you have to do it
How long
right.
is beef age usually? 7 to 10 days, something like
It's about
that?
the same, I think.
I'm not real
I'm
sure.
not sure about that either.
Let's go to Tony in Dothan. Tony, welcome to the program.
Tony.
93.7. Go ahead.
Hey, yes, I wanted to ask y'all something about the home canning. I hear a lot about freezing the deer meat and all, but what are you going to do when all your electricity goes off? We can, my dad and my brother and I, we can deer meat,
Exactly. That's
mullet,
great.
chicken,
Yep.
even some rabbit and squirrel.
That's great.
And some fish.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
Canning meat.
And the mullet is the best.
Yeah.
And one for Rick and Bubba, I shot my 8-point this year in my front yard.
Yeah, well, that's where you got to find them now. Yeah, in our state, you're right.
Yeah, we have some canning videos on there too, and also in the next book, I have a whole canning section, and I talk about canning meat and all that with the pressure canner and all. Yeah,
I'm going to put a
that's
ladder
great.
stand up next to the pansy bed.
Hey, boy, I tell you, they love him pansies, by the way.
Good night.
To Jimmy in Cottondale. Jimmy, go right ahead.
How y'all doing?
Good, buddy.
I wanted to ask her if she ever did any shish kebabs.
Sure.
Oh yeah, they're great. And I think the last time I was here, I brought y'all some venison satay, which is just a fancy word for pounded venison, but it's on a stick, and it's got a little sauce to go with it. But it is fantastic grilled like that. Yeah. Do you have a favorite way you cook it?
Yeah. Oh, he hung up. I'm sorry, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. Put a little green pepper on there with it. Some little onion.
It's good stuff.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Not a
anything.
thing.
Might even stick a little tomato on there.
Yeah, so good. Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for being with us. We're enjoying the food. All the information you'll find in show notes today. Stacy Harris, the books, the YouTube videos, their website, Game and Garden. It's all there. And see her in Hoover tomorrow, Montgomery as well.
Bubba, Rick and Bubba.